There was a time, not so long ago, when every British high street told you everything you needed to know about the people who lived there. The butcher who knew your name. The ironmonger who stocked things you didn't know you needed until you saw them. The wool shop where your grandmother spent entire afternoons. These shops are gone now, most of them, gone before we even thought to say goodbye. Today, we are going back, to walk those streets one more time. Britain's high streets in the 1960s had over 500,000 independent shops. Today, that number has fallen below 150,000. In 60 years, we lost 350,000 shops, 350,000 communities, 350,000 reasons to leave the house and feel like you belonged somewhere. This is the story of the ones we lost, and why, even now, we cannot stop missing them.
The ironmonger. Every British town had one. Every British town needed one. These were not hardware stores, not in the modern sense. The ironmonger was part shop, part library, part community service. You went in knowing exactly what you needed. You came out with that, and 12 other things you hadn't known existed until the ironmonger showed them to you. The smell was extraordinary. Oil, metal, sawdust, paint. A smell that meant someone here knows how to fix things. Between 1960 and 2000, Britain lost over 15,000 ironmongers. Today, fewer than 200 remain. The last ones are kept alive by people who refuse to let them go, by people who remember what it meant to walk into a shop and be genuinely helped.
The wool shop. If the ironmonger was a man's world, the wool shop was something else entirely. It was a women's world, a community space disguised as a shop. The lady behind the counter knew every customer's project. She remembered that Mrs. Patterson was knitting a cardigan for her grandson and that she'd need 2 more balls of the pale blue before she was done. She knew that the woman who'd just walked in had been working on the same jumper for 3 years and wouldn't say so. The wool shop smelled of lanolin and warmth and patience. It was the kind of shop where you could spend 45 minutes choosing between 2 almost identical shades of cream, and nobody minded. Nobody rushed you, because the woman behind the counter had all the time in the world, and she wanted you to get it right. By 2010, over 90% of Britain's independent wool shops had closed. The big craft chains had arrived. They sold the same wool, but they didn't remember your name. They didn't know about Mrs. Patterson's grandson, and that made all the difference.
The family butcher. The shop that Britain has missed more than almost any other. Not because of the meat, you can buy meat anywhere now, but because of what came with the meat. Advice, knowledge, a relationship built over years. The family butcher knew how your family liked its joints. He knew that you'd want the lamb shoulder for Sunday, and that you'd want it boned and rolled because your husband had bad teeth. He knew that you always bought a bit extra at Christmas, and he always put a bit extra aside. The price cards in the window were handwritten. The cuts were named. The haberdashery, a word that younger generations barely recognise, but for anyone who grew up before the 1980s, the haberdashery was as essential as the butcher or the baker. This was where Britain mended things, where Britain made things. In the 1960s, it was completely normal for a woman to make her own clothes, to make her children's clothes, to repair rather than replace. The haberdashery supplied everything she needed. Thread matched to fabric by holding both up to the window light. Buttons chosen one by one from a tray, each one considered seriously.
Zips measured by hand. Elastic cut to the exact length required. Nothing pre-packaged, nothing sealed in plastic. Everything personal. Everything precise. The haberdashery trusted you to know what you needed and helped you get there. Britain had over 8,000 independent haberdasheries in 1965. Today, the word itself has almost vanished from the language.
The corner sweet shop. This one is personal, because everyone who grew up in Britain before 1990 has a corner sweet shop story. You know exactly which one I mean. It was probably no bigger than your living room. It probably smelled of sugar and newsprint and something you could never quite identify. The person behind the counter was probably old. They were always old. And they had infinite patience for a child spending 3 pennies very, very carefully. The glass jars. That is what people remember most. Not the sweets themselves, but the jars, lined up behind the counter or in the window, each one a different colour in the light. Aniseed balls, sherbet lemons, pear drops, humbugs, gobstoppers that lasted an hour, Carly that turned your tongue black, and the ritual of choosing, the pointing, the considering.
The changing of mind at the last second. Actually, can I have the flying saucers instead? And the old man or woman behind the counter, who had heard this 1,000 times, would simply smile and reach for a different jar. The corner sweet shop was not selling sweets, it was selling time. Unhurried, unworried, completely childlike time. It was the last place in Britain where a penny meant something. And when they closed, and they all closed eventually, something very specific about childhood closed with them.
The family bakery. Not a chain, not a franchise. A bakery where the bread was made by the same family who sold it to you, often since before the war. The baker was in at 3 in the morning. The bread was in the window by 7, and by 9, the best loaves were gone. The smell reached you half a street away. It pulled you in like something from a fairy tale. Over 12,000 independent bakeries closed between 1960 and 2000. The ones that remain are treasures. Treat them accordingly. The cobbler. The shoe repairer. The man, it was almost always a man, who sat in a tiny shop that smelled of leather and glue and worked miracles on shoes that everyone else had given up on. In the 1960s, you did not throw away shoes. You had them resoled. You had the heels replaced. You had them stretched if they were too tight. The cobbler made shoes last a decade, sometimes 2. He was not just a tradesman. He was an argument against waste, made human. Britain had over 15,000 cobblers in 1960. Today, fewer than 4,000.
The newsagent. Open before anyone else, closed after everyone else. The newsagent was the first person many British people saw every single morning, and the last shop they visited on the way home. It sold everything and nothing simultaneously. Papers, cigarettes, a few tins, some sweets, birthday cards, the football pool's coupon, a notepad, a rubber. Whatever you needed, it probably had it. The newsagent knew who was having an argument because they'd cancelled a newspaper. He knew who had a new baby because the papers had changed.
The fishmonger. The loudest shop on the high street, and possibly the most theatrical. The fishmonger did not merely sell fish, he performed fish. The ice display in the window, a work of art, changed daily. The fish arranged just so, skin gleaming, eyes bright, fins fanned. The cries from outside the shop, drawing people in from 100 yards away. And the knowledge. The fishmonger knew every fish, every season, every recipe. He knew that you should only buy mussels in months with an R in them. He knew that the mackerel was best that morning. He knew things that most people have forgotten completely. Britain had over 10,000 fishmongers in 1960. Today, fewer than 1,000. The fishmonger. The loudest shop on the high street, and possibly the most theatrical. The fishmonger did not merely sell fish, he performed fish. The ice display in the window, a work of art, changed daily. The fish arranged just so, skin gleaming, eyes bright, fins fanned. The cries from outside the shop, drawing people in from 100 yards away. and the knowledge. The fishmonger knew every fish, every season, every recipe. He knew that you should only buy mussels in months with an R in them. He knew that the mackerel was best that morning. He knew things that most people have forgotten completely. Britain had over 10,000 fishmongers in 1960. Today, fewer than 1,000. 10 shops, 10 communities, 10 reasons to leave the house and feel like you belonged somewhere specific, to a street, to a town, to a Britain that knew your name and kept your order and remembered your preferences without being asked. We did not lose these shops because people stopped wanting them. We lost them because the world changed faster than communities could keep up, because price beat relationship, because convenience beat conversation, because efficiency beat everything else, including the things that made life worth living. But here is what I know. The people who remember these shops, who grew up in their smell and their warmth and their particular kind of unhurried attention, those people carry something that cannot be bought in a supermarket. A standard, a memory of what a high street should feel like, what a community should feel like, what Britain, at its best, felt like. These shops are gone, but they are not forgotten. Not here, not on Britain before. If you remember any of these shops, if you worked in one, or your family ran one, or you simply spent your Saturday mornings in one, tell me in the comments. I read every single one, because your memories are what this channel is made of. Subscribe to Britain Before, because there is so much more of this country waiting to be remembered.